I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Cannon. As lifelong Disney fans, the work of countless talented Disney creatives have shaped our lives.
Now, as the Disney catalog expands, we're taking a journey through film and television to discover if that spark that shaped us as children lives on in adulthood.
Does your favorite Disney media still cast that same spell? Join us as we find out. We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
Yeah, this is our Valentine's Day episode, and we are going to be talking about the greatest love story to ever come out of Marvel Comics. I'm talking about Deadpool. And man, this is one that we've wanted to talk about for a while.
Basically since the merger.
Yeah. By the time this episode is released, I believe the first trailer for Deadpool 3 would already be out. So
yeah, as we're recording this, the Super Bowl has not yet aired, and there is a rumor that we might get the first trailer at the Super Bowl. By the time you hear this, you will probably know whether or not we got that trailer.
Yeah. So we haven't seen it yet because it hasn't been released yet. So yeah. But Deadpool, the Marvel character, the Merc with the Mouth, a movie that has taken so long to get made. And, well, I mean, after Deadpool's first theatrical appearance.
Oh, can we just forget about that?
Yeah, I mean, we do have to mention that just for, completion's sake.
I need that Men in Black neuralizer thing for that whole movie.
Yeah, X-Men Origins Wolverine, which tried to tell us the origin of Wolverine and gave us Deadpool with, the Merc with the Mouth with his mouth sewn shut.
The Merc without a mouth.
Yeah, with that weird eye paint burn thing and katana Wolverine claws and Cyclops eye beams and just
I don't know how Ryan Reynolds got through that.
Because he's a big fan of the character.
Yeah, it's like his favorite character. And he was so excited to be playing Deadpool.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot imagine getting basically your dream role and then getting there and, before I finish this sentence, this is an R-rated movie and therefore it's an R-rated podcast. If you've got the littles in the room, bye-bye littles. We're going to have a great movie for you next week, but this is not the movie for you. Go watch Bluey. Bye.
Yes,
bye-bye.
Yes, we are going to be having an R-rated conversation about this fucking movie. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can't imagine Ryan Reynolds being, getting this part that he's wanted, probably his entire acting career, and then getting on set and learning that they fucked it up so bad.
Yeah.
And then now you're under contract and it's like, oh, you have to do this awful version of your favorite character.
And yeah, after the movie came out, there was talk of a possible Deadpool movie because at the end of X-Men Origins Wolverine, there was that post-credit scene that showed that Deadpool, Wade Wilson, survived and we're going to get this version of Deadpool.
But who the fuck wants that version of Deadpool?
Prior to his transformation into Weapon 11, Wade was pretty spot on in that movie. He was a smartass. For the most part, while it wasn't on the level as this movie,
because it wasn't an R-rated movie.
True. But he was still a smartass. He was still wisecracking to the annoying degree, which is Wade Wilson.
Yeah, and that's why they had the thing of sewing his mouth shut and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the movie, I kind of had hope. And then I don't know about when you saw Wolverine.
I did not see. I knew about what was going on because it was on the. Everyone was talking about it online. I did not see X-Men Origins Wolverine until it hit the home video market.
Oh, no, I saw it opening night.
Oh.
And nobody knew what was coming because that had not leaked. So I went to a theater, a packed theater, like full of fanboys.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was digging Wade. Because you're right, in the first part of that movie, he was fun. And then all of a sudden, they do the, like, Deadpool reveal. And Wolverine makes that, like, well, I guess they finally found a way to shut you up. And the entire audience absolutely turned on that film. I mean, it was vicious.
Thank God they went back and redid that scene in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, I mean, we will get to that. We will get to that, because I want to talk about Deadpool 2 sooner rather than later, but today is not that day. But yeah, I have rarely seen an audience turn on something so fast. I mean, there were, like, boos and, like, people screaming obscenities at the screen. Like, my theater did not take that.
Like, prior to X-Men Origins Wolverine, Deadpool only had very little exposure in media because he's not a family-friendly character. He had, like, 1 second of an appearance in the X-Men 90s cartoon, and he didn't say a word.
Yeah, it was a cameo.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, if you know, you know.
And he was, I think, the only other appearance he had was in, like, some of the Marvel video games, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance and something like that, or Marvel vs. Capcom. But, like, this is the feature film debut of this character, and we were told we were going to get this character, and they get it so wrong.
And,
like, I have no problem with Deadpool being the final boss of the movie for Wolverine. That is a great idea. Having, Logan be this very ultra serious, you're going to come after me, bub, and then having Wade be the smart aleck who's killing for fun. That would actually be a great ending, but no.
Yeah, but, and I think a bunch of us started feeling bad for Ryan Reynolds because he kept getting all these parts that should have been great, and then the movies kept fucking up the characters.
Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah. Boy, was that a mess.
Why did they call Guy Gardner Hal Jordan?
Yeah, that was messed up.
Ryan Reynolds could play a great Guy Gardner, but why were they calling him Hal Jordan?
I mean, he did play a great Guy Gardner, honestly.
Yes.
Just by the wrong name. So, yeah, you just began to feel bad for him and all, but then, bless this man, he decided to really go to bat for Deadpool. He was like, you know what? Fuck it. Deadpool deserves better. And really started working behind the scenes to get Deadpool like an actual true to character film.
A movie that almost did not happen. Pre-production effect shots kind of made to kind of show what the movie was going to be, and they were going to shelve the movie, and then mysteriously someone released that pre-production footage to the internet, and then everyone says, oh, this is what the Deadpool movie is going to be? Sign me up. Make this movie. to this day, no one knows who leaked it and no one's saying anything, but I'm pretty sure the person that leaked it rhymes with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that one of the things that got Ryan Reynolds interested in doing Deadpool was that in one of the comics, they referred to the look of Deadpool as looking like Ryan Reynolds. So it got back to Ryan Reynolds, and he kind of fell in love with the character, and he was like, I really would like to play this character. And he had worked with the screenwriter on Blade. And the two of them had talked about Marvel Comics, because of course Blade being Marvel as well. And they had talked about Deadpool and that joke in Deadpool, and wouldn't it be cool to make a Deadpool movie? And that was even before the Origins Wolverine thing. So the Deadpool movie was in talks, at least between Ryan Reynolds and the screenwriter, long before the Wolverine movie. And then the Wolverine movie came along, and he really campaigned to be in that when he found out they were going to use Deadpool, is my understanding at least. And then when they fucked that up, he went back to the screenwriter and was like, hey, can we maybe see about rebooting Deadpool and doing it right this time?
Also, Ryan Reynolds, actual Canadian.
Yeah.
Deadpool Canadian. We actually have a Canadian playing a Canadian.
Yep. Unlike an Australian playing a Canadian.
And I believe they did make one change for the film, but they actually had Ryan Reynolds' hometown.
Yeah, Regina.
Wade's hometown in this movie.
Yeah. But the thing is that it took him, years and a lot of cajoling. The cool thing is that once it finally, got started, everybody kind of really got on board when they realized how faithful Ryan Reynolds wanted to be to the actual comics.
Like how Ryan Reynolds, let's be real, Ryan Reynolds, a lot of his aura surrounds his looks. Ryan Reynolds is a very handsome man. So for someone that is a very handsome man to either be under heavy prosthetics for most of the movie or wearing a mask. Because there's been a lot of talk over the years of actors in superhero movies flexing their egos, wanting what is referred to as FaceTime, not the app FaceTime, but their face shown on screen. This is their face shown on screen. This is why if you watch a superhero movie, a superhero will take their mask off multiple times in the movie because the actor wants their face shown on screen. Ryan Reynolds wanted this thing to be so faithful that rather than cutting the idea of him having these scars all over his body or wearing a mask for most of the time, Ryan Reynolds could have easily pulled rank on that. Like, I'm not going under any prosthetics. I'm going to have my face shown throughout the movie. He could have done that. And kudos for him for not doing that. Kudos for him for being so faithful to this character to wear those prosthetics, to wear that mask throughout the movie. So kudos to Ryan Reynolds for having that for being so faithful to this character to, for lack of a better term, sacrifice his looks for the integrity of the character.
Well, the interesting thing is that having him in the mask so much I heard that they were able to, because the mask was CGI and all that, and he was under the mask for so much of the movie, I heard that they were able to go back and do ADR at the end of the movie and add in better jokes.
Yeah, also relevant jokes to the time, because at the time this movie came out, a certain spokesman for a certain sandwich place was in trouble. So they decided to throw that joke in the movie.
Yeah, that is in here. So yeah, I mean it's interesting some of the things they were able to get away with because of, the way they filmed it. But it's kind of like, the two Judge Dredd movies,
Yeah.
where like Stallone was like, no, I'm going to constantly have my face shown. And then Carl Urban was like, no, he never takes his mask off. Why would I?
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate when somebody will go to bat for a character. And I like that this was one time when somebody used their clout to be like, okay, I got hoodwinked into doing a bad version of this character, and I am going to use every bit of my fame and fortune to rectify that horrible mistake. So, bravo, Ryan Reynolds. Let's talk about how this turned out.
I do have a couple of other things that I want to get to before we really get into the movie itself. We have Colossus in the movie, and Daniel Cudmore, who played Colossus in the other Fox X-Men movies, X-Men 2, X-Men 3, was offered the role of Colossus in this movie. He turned it down because he would have to be in a mocap suit for most of the movie, and he would have to do the Russian accent. While he was not opposed to doing a Russian accent, he did not like the idea of his character being completely CGI for the whole movie and having to wear a mocap suit for the entire film. I don't blame the guy. Though the story I really want to get into this, though, is the character of Negasonic Teenage Warhead. And Negasonic is even at the time of this movie's release, was a relatively new character. Had only been in the comics at this point since this is so about 10 years, which in comic book terms is yesterday.
Yeah.
Compared to characters like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and all of them. So Negasonic Teenage Warhead in the original comic was a sort of gothic character, black hair, pale skin. Died in her first appearance. Not gonna lie, Negasonic Teenage Warhead dies in her first appearance. But in the comic books, her powers are telekinesis. She's a psychic. In the movie, her powers are fire-based. So originally, Negasonic was not even supposed to be in this movie. Colossus' little trainee sidekick was supposed to be Cannonball. But they decided that they had too many, that they wanted to have another female character in the movie, and that everyone involved really liked the name Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Obviously named after the song Negasonic Teenage Warhead by Monster Magnet. I'm wondering how many Monster Magnet fans we have listening to the podcast. Probably none.
Yeah.
So they wanted to give Negasonic the powers of Cannonball. Now, in order to do that, they needed to ask permission from Marvel. As this is happening, over at Marvel, James Gunn is writing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And he wants to use the character of Ego the Living Planet in the movie, but the problem is Marvel Studios did not have the movie rights to Ego the Living Planet. Now, we've talked about this before, how Marvel likes to divide their characters up into families. How you have the X-Men family and the Hulk family and the Spider-Man family and all of their related characters. Ego the Living Planet is actually part of the Fantastic Four family, as that character first appeared in a Fantastic Four comic book. So when this came up with changing Negasonic's powers, Fox and Marvel Studios came to an agreement that they would allow Negasonic's powers to be changed for the films. In exchange, that Fox allow James Gunn to use the character of Ego the Living Planet in Guardians 2. Which to me is such an amazing story and such happenstance in that regard. So, of course, they completely changed Negasonic's look. They get rid of the goth girl look entirely, kind of going for a punk look with the shaved head. The look is so popular that when they brought the character back into the comics after the movie came out, she now looks like she does in the movie with the shaved head and everything. So,
well, the interesting thing is that the idea of the shaved head came from the idea that her powers kept burning off her hair. So that every time she used her powers, it would just burn her hair away.
Mm.
And that was the idea behind the kind of more punk rock look, is that she couldn't have like long hair and like really like gothy kind of, whatever hair, because every time she used the like big blast powers, it would burn her hair away.
I mean, it burns her clothes away during the final battle. She's just wearing the yellow X-Men uniform underneath.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this thing. Major changes in the movie is that we completely erase Weapon X from the movie entirely. Like Deadpool's original comic origin was that he was part of the Weapon X program. He was not born a mutant. The movie does classify him as a mutant, but in the comics he was not born with a mutation. Part of the Weapon X program was giving him a mutation. Taking Weapon X out of here is against the comics, but the way they set up the story of this shady organization that gives people superpowers and sells them off to secret armies to enslave people. Not completely off of what Weapon X is.
I kind of like that, the idea of Weapon X was they would find mutants and then they would do experiments on them to see, like, how far their mutations would go and, all that kind of stuff.
And it was also an expansion of the Super Soldier program.
Yeah. But the thing I like about the shady, let's turn people into super slaves organization in here is that it's the idea of, okay, so in the comics, you've got the idea of the X gene. That is what differentiates Homo sapien from Homo superior. The regular humans from mutants. And so Homo superior has the X gene and Homo sapiens does not. But I like the idea of that maybe some people have like a dormant X gene that was not activated at puberty like your typical Homo superior mutant. Because in the comics, that's how it works. If you have the X gene, it gets activated right around puberty. And that's how you differentiate mutants from regular humans. And the idea behind this is that it seems that some people, and Wade is one of them, have a dormant form of the X gene that this serum they've discovered can activate if you use the serum in combination with enough adrenaline and stress on the body.
In a similar way that puberty does to the human body.
Yeah. So it's a chemical reaction, but it has to be so much more heightened because it's a dormant version of the gene.
And you're an adult, not a child.
Yeah. And so they do it via horrific torture. But we know that it doesn't work in everybody. They're just picking up people in dire circumstances and telling them, we can cure whatever is wrong with you.
We can make you a superhero.
So they get Wade because they tell him that they have like an experimental cure for cancer. And we see them picking up people that are like junkies and, you know, all this other kind of stuff. So we know they're preying on people who are in like rock bottom states.
As Wade says it, when you reach the stage of fuck it.
Yeah. And so we know that they're preying on random people, and we know it doesn't work on everybody because we see the guy that Wade is talking to in the lab, and we know that that guy never got a mutation. And we know that, you know, Francis says to Wade, we torture you until the gene expresses itself or you just die. So we know that it's just a random happenstance. So they're basically just luring people in and hoping that they hit upon somebody with a dormant X gene. And anybody that doesn't, you know, throw them on the pile. It's interesting to think of in this context how many people might have a dormant X gene. And as much as I mean, we've already talked about how much I freaking hate the Fox X-Men movies. It does kind of tie in with what Magneto was trying to do in that first X-Men movie.
Yeah, but trying to activate Senator Kelly's dormant X gene, it just went horribly wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar idea of, you know, I'm not sure if Magneto kind of understood what he was doing, but it does seem like a similar idea. That, you know, there are people out there who just have a weakened form of it that never expresses naturally, but maybe if you had the right chemicals or something,
the right circumstances,
yeah, then it would express and more people would go through that mutation.
Everyone in this facility seems to have been a former, for lack of a better term, patient. As Francis says, he started out on the table and they gave him powers. We can presume that Angel also went through that process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she has powers, so she's either a natural mutant that she's just working for them as a, you know, mercenary or something, or, you know, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that some of them seem to have had the choice of, you can either be sold off as a super slave to somewhere else, or you can be the people turning other people into super slaves. Which is a really dark thought. I like when things stick to the source material, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say I really like the changes here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like how it's kind of separating itself from an unfortunate previous rendition. Because we've already talked about how much I dislike the previous, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But let's back up a little bit and talk about, you know, how poor Wade gets himself in this situation. Because this is, after all, a Valentine's movie.
Yeah, this movie came out on Valentine's Day, and obviously the original trailer had it in your typical superhero movie trailer, but they did the second trailer going off the fact that this was releasing on Valentine's Day, recontextualizes the scene as a romantic comedy. I don't know if you ever saw that trailer.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But yeah, it's like, if that was the only trailer you saw going into the movie, you would be very shocked. Although I will say, Mr. Poole, women watch superhero movies too.
Yeah.
Because there's that line, "Oh, my boyfriend said this was a superhero movie." I understand that was not the intention of the line, but even watching it in the theater, it was like,
cringe, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit cringe. But like you said, let's back up here to the beginning of the story. Wade Wilson, working now as a mercenary for hire for this organization that specializes in buying mercenaries to take care of people who need to be taken care of. One night in this organization, he meets a woman named Vanessa. They hit it off. She is a lady of the evening. She is selling her services.
It's an R-rated podcast. You can say hooker.
She's a prostitute. She sells herself. She offers her services to Wade. Good guy Wade does not immediately take her to bed. He does take her on a date.
Skee ball. Time to put some balls in some holes.
I mean, good guy Wade, because he obviously, again, Morena Baccarin is a beautiful woman. So I don't blame you, Mr. Wade Wilson. Even she is questioning it. Like, I thought you liked vaginas. I didn't think this is where you were going to go with this.
Yeah, but the thing is like, you know, he doesn't want a one night stand. He wants a girlfriend.
Yeah, and they hit it off. They have a great. I assume it's a Dave and Buster's type establishment, because there's games and you win tickets and you trade them in for prizes.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have their date. They hit it off. They go to bed and they keep having sex for an entire year. That entire calendar girl scene,
which is one of the greatest scenes ever put to film.
Yeah.
Happy International Women's Day.
I'm sitting down. Oh. But kudos to Wade for having the courage to get pegged.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, he is pansexual. So.
But yeah, and after seemingly their relationship lasting about a year or so, he pops the question. He asks her to marry him, and right after she says yes, he collapses and he finds out that he has terminal cancer of the everything. I mean, they have a lot. They say a lot of body parts, but let's be real. He has cancer of the everything.
Yeah. Wade, like a punk, decides like, that he's just going to leave her instead of, staying. Because I want you to remember me like I was. I don't want to put you through this. Wah. Shut up, Wade.
That is kind of the romantic comedy kind of thing, is that I'm dying. I don't want you to see me die. I want you to remember me as the hot stud I look like now. But I love that moment they're in the office and he's just looking at her. He says, she's going through every plan imaginable to try to save me, and all I want to do is remember what her face looks like.
I mean, that is sweet. And then he abandons her and doesn't even say goodbye. And you're a punk, Wade. Shut the hell up.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way you do it. That's the coward's way out.
And he does try to justify it, preventing pain from someone you love. Isn't that what heroes do?
No, it's not. You're being a coward. Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry, that's like the worst thing Wade does in the entire movie. I don't give a shit about like the murders and the decapitations and all the other shit he does. That one bit is the absolute worst thing Wade Wilson ever does in 2 movies.
Yeah.
Like, suck it up and realize you are not the only person in the world, and there are people who care about you, and it is not all about you.
But if he didn't, he wouldn't have become Deadpool.
Okay, but still.
Yeah.
You're a punk.
But yeah.
I mean, I get that the plot needs to happen,
Mm-hmm.
but, flashing forward to the end, when she beats the shit out of him for what he did, totally valid.
I think he kind of goes, yeah. One thing I do love in this movie is I mentioned the test footage and how they recreate the test footage for the opening scene of the movie. That entire car chase is based on that test footage. And I know someone did it. Like, they took that test footage and compared it to the final film, and it's spot on, almost shot for shot. But that scene is so cool. Even in the live action, it's so cool. And especially when you see the still frame version at the beginning with Angel in the Morning playing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have to mention that. The opening credits.
Yeah, the opening credits to this movie are maybe the best opening credits to any movie ever.
Starring God's Perfect Idiot.
Yeah. And, the writers being the real heroes. And how the coffee cup says Rob L on it.
Mm-hmm.
The little things like that.
There's a picture of, I don't know who it is, but they're in a Green Lantern costume.
Oh no, that's Ryan Reynolds.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that's just straight up Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, that whole opening sequence as it goes through and all that is so funny. And then of course when it backs up and you see how it got to that point,
mm-hmm.
and you finally get the full context.
The fact that they kept the fourth wall breaking in the movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That scene where he just straight up starts talking to the camera. Oh, hello there. I know what you're thinking. Whose balls did I have to fondle to get my own movie?
And then he does the Australian accent, which I love. The great thing about it is, like, it's so much fun to watch because, like, can we just talk about how I love that they did not skimp on the gore?
I mean, R-rated movie. And the fact that they actually went with the gore, all bloody, all keeping it an R rating and not making it a PG-13 movie, not cheaping out on it, and it's true to the character. I mean, R-rated superhero movies tend not to make a lot of money. Let's be real.
Because people think that the main audience for a superhero movie is going to be kind of like younger teenage.
In some cases, children.
And in some cases children, but honestly, let's be for real. Since the MCU started coming out, they're making those movies for adults. That's not children's movies.
The amount of swearing that they can get away with in a PG-13 movie, and people have complained about that. I took my child to see the Avengers, and they're all saying shits and dams, and it's like PG-13. What are you expecting? Now that the movie has been out for a while, I will say that I am very sad that they did not wait and give Wade the first F-bomb in an MCU movie and instead gave it to Star-Lord.
Yeah, but I am glad that was James Gunn's final mic drop.
Yeah.
If he's leaving the MCU, I'm kind of glad that James Gunn got that mic drop.
Yeah. Good luck with DC, James.
You'll need it. But yeah, but as far as that, that opening sequence, once it finally speeds up and you get to see it, that bit where he, cuts off the dude's head and launches the body into the overpass signage, and then Colossus shows up later and he's like, look at all the destruction you've done. You killed the dude. And he's like, no, you can't blame me for that. It's not as bad as it looks. And then the dude's body falls off the sign. And he's like, he was like that when I got here.
I've never said this to anyone before, but don't swallow.
Yeah. Oh my god. Although, I gotta say, I will admit to being a little bit jealous of Francis. Because his superpower is that he no longer feels pain.
Oh, yeah.
And I might go through, some, a small amount of torture for a little bit, if at the end of that, that's what's on the other side of it, because might be worth it.
Yes, we have mentioned it once or twice in the show. You do have various illnesses that cause you physical pain on a daily basis.
Yeah, I might be willing to make that trade-off.
But the thing about the X gene is you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, if I could be okay, that,
Yeah.
I mean, I might also do the healing factor, even if I came out looking like Deadpool. I could look like a shriveled avocado if it was I'll just heal from anything.
They don't really explain it that well in the movie, but at least as far as the comics is concerned, it's just his cancer cells merged with his healthy cells, and he's just one giant tumor now.
The thing is, though, is I gotta say, here's the problem I have with the movie, and it's a minor quibble, minor quibble. In the comics, it comes out a little bit harsher, but you were praising, and rightfully so, our dear Mr. Reynolds for being willing to be under prosthetics and stuff. But kind of the whole point of the movie, and the reason he stays away from Vanessa and doesn't go back and everything, is oh, look at me, I'm hideous. And everybody's like, oh, look at him, he's hideous. And, But, he still looks like Ryan Reynolds with, some mild facial scarring. Like, I'm sorry, but, like, he doesn't look awful. He still kind of looks like Ryan Reynolds. I mean, I've seen worse.
And I love that he does a little bit of self-deprecating humor in the movie about that. Like, you think Ryan Reynolds got this far on his superior acting method?
Yeah. But it's just a little weird, like, as someone who finds men attractive, and Ryan Reynolds not necessarily completely my type, but he is an attractive man. Just, I'll admit that. Even in the Deadpool makeup, not entirely unattractive.
You'd hit it?
I mean, I'm not sure I would, because I'm not sure I'd hit Ryan Reynolds just as himself. Like, it's not entirely my type. But he doesn't look that different. Like, if you're in love with that guy, that's not the thing that's going to do it for you. You know? Like, that's not the deal breaker. If you're Vanessa and that's the love of your life, and he has, like, an accident or something, you're still going to be in love with that guy. You're not going to break up with him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're in love with him and he, like, got into an accident and got, like, burns on him or something, you are the asshole of the century if you're like, well, I'm going to break up with you now because you were in an accident.
I feel like we had this conversation a few weeks ago for another movie.
Yeah, but still, I mean, it bears repeating.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Wade, how little faith do you have in your woman? Like, first of all, you get sick, and then you're like, I'm not going to stay around because I don't want to cause her pain, and she's not going to love me anymore, or whatever. And then you skip town. And then when you're, like, cured, but you just don't look the same way you did before, you're like, she's definitely not going to love me now. I look like an avocado. Then, like, fuck you, dude.
Even
do
at
you
the
have
end of,
faith in your love or not?
Even at the end of the movie, she's not disgusted by it. She says it's going to take some getting used to, this face versus the old face, but as she says in the movie, it's a face I'm proud to sit on.
Yeah, and then she immediately kisses him. Mm-hmm. So, like, she obviously loves him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, I mean, skip ahead to movie 2, they're, like, planning a family together. So, I mean, obviously she's fine with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have faith in your woman. Like, hello, my dude, what is wrong with you? Sorry, I love this movie, and I love Wade Wilson, but that's, like, his one character flaw.
I mean, that's kind of the point, is he's very superficial about his own looks. Like, she won't love me because I'm ugly now. She only loved me because I was hot. I paid for a date with her, yes, but the fact that we stayed together after that date was because I was hot.
I mean, dude, you are a murderer for hire. You think, like, the fact that you're hot is the reason she's with you? Like,
and it's not like she needs someone to kill people for her. In that opening scene, she's very much handling herself with Fat Gandalf.
Yeah. And also, it's not exactly like she needs, like, money from him. She's a very hot hooker. I'm sure she's making bank.
And at the end of the movie, she's now working as a very prominent stripper.
Yeah.
And
but he offers her like $200 and something, and she's like, that'll buy you like 40 minutes. Like, come on. That's a pretty good hourly rate right there, you know? I think pretty much anybody would be happy to be making her hourly rate, you know?
Yeah.
She can take care of herself. She has her own source of income that might be better than his, because he refuses that paycheck at the beginning of the movie because he's like, I'm not taking babysitting money. Because the person who hired him was like a teenager, you know, with a stalker. So, like, we don't really know what Wade's pulling down, but, you know, he's got like a kind of tiny little apartment, and, you know. She seems to be doing all right for herself, independent woman, all that. Yeah. So, like, she's got to be with him for some other reason other than just he's hot.
I had wanted to talk about this earlier, but I forgot about it. But so a couple of years before the Deadpool movie came out, there was a Deadpool video game. And there was a group called Team Headkick. And Team Headkick primarily did songs about video games. And they did a song about the Deadpool video game called the Deadpool Rap.
They call me Deadpool, I'm hella fast. Came to mark the bad guys and get some ass. Got blades for days, got guns galore. Got combo moves, evades and more. With bear traps and hand...
Now that song got pretty popular online. So much when this movie was announced, people were asking that this song be featured in the movie. Eventually, I don't know, someone heard it, maybe Ryan Reynolds himself, and they contacted Team Headkick and say, we want to put your song in the movie as is. Team Headkick decided, well, give us a minute, because the song is about the Deadpool video game and mentions characters and events in the Deadpool video game.
Wolverine is getting bitch slapped. Wake up, will be no time for a nap. We got a rescue road, ride a roller coaster, grab our gear and head to Genosha.
They rewrote the song to be about the Deadpool movie.
Hey goons, thugs and bosses, guess what? I brought Colossus. Time's up, better count your losses. Kicking that ass as my girlfriend watches.
But I do like the fact that Fox or Ryan Reynolds or whoever saw the online request for this song to be in the movie and said, sure, why not? Let's put the song in the movie. So all of you independent artists online who write songs about video games and comic books and fandom things, don't give up. Your song might appear in a movie if there's enough demand for it.
Yeah.
But also, one thing I want to talk about is that the movie kind of makes fun of its own budget, because obviously this movie did not have a very high budget, at least compared to other superhero movies, especially to the other X-Men movies. And on top of that, its budget kept on getting slashed and slashed and slashed through production. This is why you see Deadpool forgetting his gun bag and he only has 12 bullets. That was to make up for the fact that they couldn't use the big guns ablazing ending that they originally scripted and the guns beginning thing that they originally scripted, and had to go with a smaller contained ending with whatever they had. But honestly, maybe more superhero movies should have a smaller budget, because we're seeing these big superhero movies, multi-billion-dollar investments, and they're not bringing in the money that they used to. So I'm saying that maybe big budget blockbuster superhero movies may not be it anymore. Maybe take a little step back.
I've heard some interviews, actually recently, with Ryan Reynolds, And he was talking about how, because he was a producer on this too, and he was apparently very involved. And he said that on this one especially, because they had, I think, a slightly higher budget for the second one. But he said on this one specifically, they were forced to make it a better movie, he thought, because they had to become very creative because the stuff they wanted to do, they didn't have the budget to do. And so, like you said, they had originally had this, like, big guns a-blazing ending, and they had to come up with the joke that he kept forgetting his guns, and they had to become more inventive with how he took out the villains and stuff like that, and be very judicious in their use of special effects and things like that.
I mean, most of the special effects budget is going to Colossus.
Yeah, or to Deadpool's mask.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people don't think about, but that's a really budget suck of CGI.
His eyes are moving and giving him emotion, and his mouth is moving with whatever he's saying, even the rewritten ADR jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take that over the attempt to make it mechanicalized for the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. Because they kind of had to keep rewriting because of the budget. I heard him talk about how they had to sit down and think about what is the most important part of the story. And he said he thought that made it a better film because they had to think about what is the most essential thing. What is the fluff here? What can we cut? And how do we become more creative in how we film this? How we plan the stunts? How we, deal with the characters? And I think he's right, because we've talked about this with other movies. That sometimes when you're just given free rein and whatever budget you want, you tend to overdo it.
I want to talk about probably my favorite side character in this movie, Blind Al.
I love Blind Al, and I love that they got Leslie Huckams to play her.
But yeah, Blind Al is just so fun and so sassy, and she's just give no fucks attitude. Like, she's headed up to here with Wade's bullshit, but she's going with it anyway because no one else seems to want to live with the old blind woman. Like, she curses the name of Craigslist because Wade was seemingly the only one who answered that ad, and now they live together.
Yeah, I love how she can tell that because they meet in the laundromat when he's trying to get the blood out of his first costume, which is an all-white hoodie. And she can, I guess, smell the blood that he's trying to get out. And she tells him, like, how to get blood out of clothing. And then she says, or just wear red. So you don't have to constantly scrub the blood out. Which I love.
Yeah.
Because we've already had him say earlier in the movie that he wears red so the bad guys can't see the blood.
Yeah.
And now we see the flashback to how he got the idea. But One of my favorite running gags in this is her trying to put together IKEA furniture.
Yeah. And her and Wade kind of arguing and having deep discussions over the various IKEA furniture brands.
Yeah.
And like, you're letting, like, would you like to put the shelf together? Well, one of us has to go out and make money, and the other one has to put together the furniture. Would you like to go out there and kill people?
Yeah. And I love that Blind Owl kind of keeps pulling a gun on people, but it's never aimed in the right direction. And she's like, don't make me shoot. He's like, the wall, you know, like.
Yeah. Like, I love Blind Owl. She gives no fucks. She just does not care, and she just doesn't take Wade's bullshit. And it's like they're the perfect pair for each other.
I love how, like, when she first meets him, she's like, "Oh man, I miss cocaine." Like,
I miss cocaine. Like, what life did Blind Owl live before all of this?
well, the interesting thing is that we know that she wasn't always blind.
Mm-hmm.
Because in one of the movies, and I forget which one, I think it's the first one, where she says, like, "Dear Lord, why couldn't you take my hearing too?" Like,
Yeah. Because, yeah, there's the scene where during one of the fast forward segments, we see Wade masturbating while looking at a unicorn doll, and apparently Blind Owl can hear that.
yeah. The great thing about her is that she is just so willing to stand up to, like, everybody that comes into her apartment, you know, like Weasel comes in and she's like, "Fuck off, Weasel." You know, like,
Yeah, especially with Wade being trained assassin, special forces murder machine.
and she's still willing to pull a gun on him, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially knowing that he can't die.
yeah, that too.
Like, even if she wasn't blind, Deadpool can't die. He's still, so shooting him is kind of pointless.
Yeah, but it would kind of be fun though,
Mhm.
you know, like if you had a roommate that really annoyed you, and like you could just like take a pop at them because you knew they wouldn't die anyway.
Yeah.
It's like a good way to get your frustrations out.
Also, another knock again, another budget joke being that there's only 2 X-Men whenever we get to the mansion.
That is my favorite running gag. I mean, I think every running gag is my favorite running gag. I know I've said that like 3 times already, but I love all the random running gags of this where, like, Wade keeps showing up and he's like, seriously, there's only ever 2. Look at this mansion. Why is there never anybody else around in the mansion?
It's almost like we can't afford another X-Men.
Yeah.
And the culmination of that joke in Deadpool 2.
Yeah. But the thing is that I have to go on a little bit of a rant, and I wanted to go on this rant when we did the first X-Men movie not long back, but that movie sucked so much that I kept ranting about everything else. So I'm going to take a break from this good movie to rant about a thing that pisses me off.
Go ahead.
It is not the X-Jet. It is the Blackbird. Do you hear me? It is not the X-Jet. The X-Jet is a stupid name.
I mean, even in that first movie, they refer to the plane as a Blackbird model, but it's still called the X-Jet.
It is not the X-Jet. Stop calling it the X-Jet. The X-Jet is a stupid name.
I think because Blackbird is a trademark term for a jet that they just can't call it that in terms of toys. So they call it X-Jet on the toy. Because I remember having the toy of the Blackbird, and it was just called the X-Jet. And this was back in, like, 95, 96.
It's the Blackbird. Copyright laws are stupid, and we should get rid of them. Anyway, that is my mini rant. Please call it the Blackbird. Even if the movie calls it the X-Jet, it is not the X-Jet. Know your comic history. Thank you.
Okay, one more side character I want to talk. My second favorite side character in this movie, Dopinder.
Dopinder! Yes, I love Dopinder.
Dopinder, the cab driver, and his little side story of his own little love triangle between Manjula and, like, his cousin, I think it is.
No, Gita and his beloved, and his cousin. I can't remember his cousin's name, but yeah, his douchebag cousin, who is so much more handsome than he is,
who stole the girl from him, and he's trying to win this girl back. And just this conversation that him and Wade have at the beginning of the movie. And, yeah, oh, Mr. Poole, I took your advice and I kidnapped him. He's in the trunk. I did not tell him. Good job, Dopinder. Good job.
Yeah, I love that, like, Dopinder gets like bloodlust from kidnapping his cousin.
And of course that leads to his little thing in Deadpool 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be so sad if he's not in Deadpool 3.
I really hope he's gonna be in Deadpool 3.
Him and Blind Al, like I know there's gonna be a lot.
Well, they've already said that Leslie Uggams will be in Deadpool 3.
Mm-hmm.
So she has been announced.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I haven't read whether or not Dopinder will be back, but I hope he will be.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, we get that side story where he kind of misunderstands what Deadpool says. 'Cause Deadpool doesn't really tell him to go, like,
kidnap anybody.
Yeah, kidnap or kill anybody. But Dopinder kind of misreads the situation and kidnaps his cousin and puts him in the trunk of the cab. And so when he picks up Deadpool and Negasonic and Colossus for the third act, going into the final battle, his cousin is in the trunk, and Colossus is absolutely horrified. And Deadpool is like, doing that thing that you were talking about where he's like, I did not tell you to do that. Good job. Like, but the funny thing is that the last we see of that in this film is that Dopinder is distracted with, like you said, Deadpool keeps leaving all his guns in the car because budget. And he calls Dopinder to be like, hey, come bring my guns back. And it distracts Dopinder and he gets into a car crash and somebody crashes into the trunk. And, flashing ahead to Deadpool 2, we know that cousin is dead.
Yeah.
But we're not sure if he died in the car crash, like as a result of the car crash, or if Dopinder killed him later.
I mean, he could still technically be alive in that trunk and died due to injuries later.
Yeah, I mean, we hear him, like, screaming.
And then he doesn't.
As a result of the crash.
Yeah.
But all we know is that he's dead by the time of Deadpool 2.
Mhm.
And Dopinder has like a real bloodlust because he's like, I loved killing my cousin, you know, like I want more. But so his thing about that is like he sees Deadpool as somebody to look up to.
Yeah.
And we see the beginning of that arc in this film. Of like, he wants to be like Deadpool. At first, Deadpool scares him.
Because this is a mercenary killing machine who is gleefully talking about Christmas Day where he gets to kill the man that ruined his face.
Yeah. But then Dopinder is like, I don't know, that seems kind of awesome, you know, like let's do that.
Getting revenge on those who wronged you through murder? Sure.
Why not? Going back to side characters, and we talked a little bit about the way they ended up putting Negasonic in this movie, but I want to talk about the way they portrayed her in this movie, because I really like her character, because...
Again, completely different from her comic counterpart. Like I said, died in her first appearance. But yeah, giving her the moody teenager. She's even credited as moody teenager in the intro.
Yeah. And, you know, Deadpool calls her out on it. Because she starts giving him lip when they first meet.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh yeah, you know, moody teenager. You're either going to say something mean or you're going to do a long silence. So which is it going to be? You going to say something mean or are you going to do a long silence? And then she's like, okay, you kind of put me in a box here. You know, like, I don't know how to respond.
As a former teenage girl yourself, how would you go with that? You still do the mean comments on this podcast.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not really given to long silences. I usually just go for the mean comment. Yeah. That's always served me better.
Long silence doesn't really work in a podcast format.
Yeah, that's true. They tend to get edited out by some jerk who edits my podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should fire him.
Yeah. The thing is though is that he wins her over by being able to like match her vibe.
Mm.
He's not put off by it and he doesn't talk down to her. You know, she's like, fuck you, and he's like, fuck you back, you know, like, yeah. It's like, and she respects it, you know, which is kind of just the way to do it, you know, honestly.
But I do like, he makes his little references and her response is, fuck, you're old.
And he's like, yep, don't care. Honestly, I gotta say, if you're dealing with a petulant teenager, and having been a teacher of petulant teenagers, I gotta say the best advice I can give somebody who's like, oh my god, I'm having to deal with a petulant teenager and I don't know how to deal with it, is like, if they come at you with like, oh my god, you're not cool, you're too old, you're like whatever, be like, you know what? There has never been a single person on Earth who gives a fuck what a teenager thinks. Like, because I swear to God, that shuts them up so fast.
I hear that daily basis on various social medias. Like, people are complaining about, well, I'm old, like certain people of certain generations who are getting older. It's like, I'm getting old, I'm too young to get old. And, you know, young people are not understanding. It's like, why do you care what a fetus cares about you? Why do you care what a fetus thinks about you? Who cares if you're getting old? It's part of life.
I will tell you, and I think this has come up on the podcast before, but like, even when I was a teenager, I did not give a shit what any teenager thought of me. Yeah. I was like, you know who gives a shit what, like, a 16-year-old thinks, another 16-year-old. By the time you're 17, you do not give a shit what a 16-year-old thinks.
Yeah.
And by the time you're 20, a 16-year-old's opinion is laughable.
If you're in your 20s and you care what a 16-year-old says about you, rethink your life.
Yeah, I mean, literally, a 16-year-old's opinion only matters to a 16-year-old.
And it's probably the
it's
probably the 16-year-old who said it, and no one
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just, unless you're trying to impress that one particular 16-year-old, nobody gives a shit. Seriously, nobody gives a shit. There is nothing a 16-year-old can say to me that will hurt my feelings, because I do not care what you think.
I will say, again, but going back to the advertising for this movie, obviously Wade has cancer, and they actually worked with various cancer organizations for Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool to do various cancer PSAs, mostly testicular cancer.
Yeah, they really did target for, people with testicles to give themselves, self-exams and, go to the doctor if they thought there was anything wrong. I mean, it was a great campaign.
Like I think the YouTube video is still up of Ryan Reynolds. I keep saying Wade, but he is Wade. Ryan Reynolds in the Deadpool costume showing how to check your testicles for cancer. And when I bought the Deadpool on Blu-ray when it came out, it had a pamphlet for testicular cancer, how to check yourself, and if you feel that there is something wrong, to go see a doctor. So for all of the bloodthirst and bloodlust and violence in this movie, they really made an effort to take the cancer part of this story seriously, both in the story and in the advertising of this movie.
Yeah, which I really, really respected, and still respect. But the thing about it is that for all the snark in this movie, I really did think they did that part of the story very sensitively. So good for them on that. And I appreciate that they dealt with that a little bit better.
Yeah. We mentioned Marvel and how Marvel had to change, how they had to go to Marvel to change a few things. Well, they actually put some Marvel references in here under the table. They don't point them out in the movie, but if you know, you know. The first most obvious one is the character Bob. Who is Bob? In the movie, Wade is taking out all of Francis's men, and he comes face to face with a former member of his special forces team named Bob. In the comics, Bob is an agent of Hydra. He works for Hydra. He works for AIM. He's a professional henchman. He has worked for all of the evil organizations there you can think of in Marvel Comics. And he is friends with Wade Wilson, and they go back far. So to have a sort of character that is associated with Deadpool throughout the years in the comics in the movie, although tangentially, that actually did make me laugh in the movie when he said, "Bob, is that you? Oh, it's Hydra Bob."
Yeah.
The other one is, well, not pointed out, but it's a very big Marvel reference. The entire final battle takes place on a destroyed SHIELD helicarrier.
Yeah.
How they got that around, I do not know. But yeah, it looks like, if nobody told you, it would look just like a battleship. Why is a battleship in a junkyard? I don't know. But yeah, this is a Shield helicarrier from the MCU. I'm surprised they got away with it, but I think it's cool that the final battle takes place on this decommissioned, half-destroyed Shield helicarrier.
Well, it's not the only direct reference to the MCU, because, skipping forward to the post-credit sequence, he does say, like, hey, what are you expecting Samuel L. Jackson to come out here in a leather coat and, say some shit. So, it's a couple of things, like that. But the thing that I like is that there are so many tiny little things. Like, there are a couple of cameos. Of course, Stan was still alive, so we get his cameo.
Running the strip club.
Yeah, he's a strip club DJ.
I mean, not the first time Stan Lee's been in a strip club.
Stripperella. And then Liefeld is in there. Because he is one of the guys in the in Weasel's bar. And Deadpool, well, Wade, it's before he's Deadpool, but at the beginning of the movie when he first walks in, he actually says, hey, Liefeld, and, like, puts his hand on Liefeld's shoulder and walks out, and it's just Liefeld is sitting there at a table. And it's really easy to miss, but if you have the captions on, you can see exactly when it happens.
Yeah, he says, hey, Liefeld, and then he walks away, fucking Liefeld.
Yeah. Which that second part is definitely kind of, my feeling on it. I mean, thanks for giving us Deadpool, but you're not an artist. As the song goes.
Shout out Linkara.
Shout out Linkara. But yeah. So we get at least one of the creators of Deadpool.
Yeah, one of the creators of
Deadpool. I want to talk about, I know we're skipping around a little bit, but I want to talk about the Colossus and Deadpool dynamic.
I did want to go there, but yeah. Colossus it's very, for lack of a better term, Superman Batman. And it's not quite the same, but that's the best example I can put, because but it's to the extreme. It's, dark to the extreme and light to the extreme. Because you have this very dark character in Deadpool. He kills. He has a foul mouth. He is willing to do anything to get things done. Then you have Colossus, who is the Boy Scout. He always, talks about being a superhero and how you can, join the X-Men, be a superhero, fight for justice.
I want to say that I like how annoying Colossus is.
By design in that regard, I assume.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to like Deadpool because it's his movie.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've talked before that the protagonist does not always have to be the good guy,
The hero.
The hero. And Deadpool constantly says, hey, I'm not the hero.
Even before he becomes Deadpool.
Yeah. And he never wants to be the hero, but the protagonist frequently does have to be likable or at least interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And Deadpool is likable, even if he's not necessarily the hero, always. But the thing is that Colossus is, even though he is frequently right, ethically, he is so annoying.
Smug, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a rigidity in him, pun intended, because of, it's just his personality matches his body,
Mm-hmm.
It's that thing of like, I have this ethical code and it is, he's very lawful good.
Mm-hmm.
And Deadpool is very chaotic neutral, I guess. He'll do good if it suits him.
If it pays the bills.
If it pays the bills. Or if it suits his own particular moral code. Because that's the interesting thing about this film, is that he knows that what Francis and this organization is doing is wrong. Like, yes, it hurt him in particular, but he also saw what it was doing to other people.
And the movie solidified Wade as having a soft side. Like like you said, he refuses payment from the teenager. He even says, "Here's my drink. Here's the money that the kid gave me. Give that money back to the kid." And the fact that Weasel calls Wade out, like, "Oh, you didn't kill the kid. You didn't kill the stalker. So are you going soft?" So it's like Wade has this thing that he just has this soft side to him, that he does things, he does the right thing when he needs to, for lack of a better term. And like I said, he sees all the people in pain. He sees all these people being tortured because they've got nothing left in this. Like him, he's hit rock bottom. He's hit fuck it. Got nothing left, and this organization is all. It's his last hope of having a normal life, getting rid of his cancer, and what they do to him and what they do to others. That shot of Wade with the steel rod embedded to him, looking on as this guy he's been talking to, still strapped to a gurney, burns to death.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't say that I wouldn't. I mean, if I had his powers, I can't say that I wouldn't at least be tempted to go that same route.
Going into Deadpool 2, when he finds out Fire Fist has been abused.
Yeah.
He looks at his bruises. He looks like, did they do this to you? And he says, yes, they did. And he kills them.
Yeah.
He even says at the end is that if being a superhero means letting fuckers like Francis go free, I don't want to be a superhero.
Yeah, and the thing is like, in that final fight, he is there to get Francis and, like, Angel, because she was there for the torture. She meant to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, all the mercenary dudes, like Bob and, those guys, they're just hired muscle. And he does the thing where he, like, rips his underwear off and makes it a white flag.
Mm-hmm. And
he tells them, he's like, look, you're just working for a douchebag. Walk away, and I don't have a problem with you. You're not the people doing the wrong thing. You're just here for a paycheck. and none of them take him up on the offer. So he massacres every single one of them except for Bob.
Because Bob's his friend. Yeah.
They were at TGI Fridays together.
Yeah.
I desperately want to know what went down at TGI Fridays. Am I the only one?
That's a spinoff right there.
Yeah, I really want to get a flashback to TGI Fridays and Bob and, like... Because, like, Wade knows, like, his wife and, like... you know?
Mm-hmm.
But, like, we see him, like, yeah, he knocks him out and stuff, and then he moves him to the side.
Yeah, he spares him. Because of their past.
Yeah, and because Bob stood down. Like, he's like, oh, wait. And then he's like, yeah, what's up? And, you know, he, like, stands down. He doesn't fight him anymore. And he's like, you know, hey, I gotta take you out of the action, but, you know, that's it. You know, you'll wake up with a headache later. I mean, he might have not woken up later because he might have been crushed by a helicarrier. Oops.
Yeah.
But, you know, at least Wade tried. But the thing is that, like, he's really only there for, like, 2 people. And the rest of those guys could have walked away. And instead, their corpses got used to spell out Francis. Which I think was one of the funniest bits in the movie.
Yeah.
When he's like, what's my name? And he's like, oh, I'll spell it out for you. And then later there's, like, the corpses spelling out Francis.
On that, is Angel dead?
Oh, no, because we do see Colossus carrying her away from the explosion.
Doesn't mean she's alive, though.
I do think it means exactly that. Because as everything is crumbling, when Negasonic releases that huge blast that causes the helicarrier to fall, we see, I mean, it's a brief shot, but we see Colossus grab Negasonic and Angel and run from the explosion.
And that's another part of Colossus being the big Boy Scout. He really does not want to fight a woman.
I don't think that it's that he doesn't want to fight a woman. I mean, yes, he doesn't want to fight a woman. But also, like, he's not going to leave a downed enemy there to just die if he can save them.
Like you said, save a friend, spare an enemy.
Yeah.
But, like, he tries to talk to her. He doesn't want, you know, and then he even tries to cover her up as her boob has fallen out during the fight.
Yeah.
And then how does she thank him? By punching him in the dick.
Yeah. But can I point out how satisfying it is to see him get wailed on? Because he's been so insufferable the entire movie. And then finally there's somebody that can give him a bit of a comeuppance. Even though we don't like her as a character.
She's no better than Francis.
Yeah. So, like, you're not rooting for her in that fight. But also, it is nice to see Colossus kind of get roughed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's so, like you said, he's so smug. And so for him to come across somebody who can at least, you know, smack him around a little bit.
Yeah. I do like the reflection of the 4 or 5 moments. Because earlier in the movie, we see Wade say that Francis was responsible for 4 of the worst 5 moments of his life.
Yeah.
And then later, Colossus says, all it takes are 4 and 5 moments to be a superhero. And I do like that duality, that mirroring there, and then just Wade just shoots Francis in the head. Because again, Francis deserved it for what he did, not just to Wade, but to everybody else. Because it's like that's a whole another commentary on superhero movies. The whole You know, like the South Park. I learned something today. Morality speech, and Deadpool wasn't having it.
Yeah. Although, can I point out that like when Deadpool just shoots Francis in the head, because I mean he deserves it. Let's just be clear about that. And Colossus like throws up at the side of that. That is possibly the effect that holds up the least.
He's throwing up silver.
Yeah, but I mean it's the effect that holds up the least.
Yeah,
it really is.
CG liquid does not, no matter where you're going with it, CG liquid doesn't exactly age well.
I mean, for the most part, the special effects in this have held up pretty well, including Colossus. Although that's probably the bit that holds up the least. But that one shot of him throwing up is the one effect that holds up just the worst. But let's talk about the bit where, you know, so the entire final showdown is because Francis has kidnapped Vanessa and is using her to lure Wade over. And he tries to do the same thing to her that he did to Wade to, you know, unlock the gene. But he's just doing it to torture her.
Yeah, no serum involved. He's just taking all the air out of the tank.
Yeah. And
I wish they had, because the character is a superhero in the comic books.
Yeah, copycat.
Copycat. So like I thought like, oh, this is how we're gonna get Vanessa to become copycat in the movie, and they never go there.
Yeah, maybe in 3? I don't know. I don't know if Vanessa is back in 3. But the thing is that he decides to fight Wade, you know, try to split his attention by putting Vanessa in that same oxygen chamber and torturing her while he's trying to kill Wade. But Wade does the smart thing and throws one of his katanas at the tank and bursts the seal so that she can have oxygen. Smart boy. Smart boy. But the thing I like about this is that Vanessa is a self-rescuing princess.
She's able to use that sword to open the lid and get out.
Yeah, she uses it to cut her bonds, and then even though she slices the absolute crap out of her hands, she's able to, you know, push the sword out and open the door and use the sword to stab the fuck out of Francis. That is such an absolutely wonderful scene, because Francis has just stabbed Wade in the skull with a knife, and then Vanessa comes up behind him and stabs him with a sword.
To the tune of "You're the Inspiration."
You know, and then, of course, because he's got a knife in his brain, Wade starts hallucinating all these, like, little cartoons around Vanessa. Like, it's such a wonderful little, you know, moment. But
the choices of music in this movie is just awesome.
yeah, like, him sitting there listening to Shoop on the overpass, and, you know,
doing the badass walk to "X Gonna Give It to You." The use of "You're the Inspiration." The use of
Calendar Girl.
The use of "Careless Whisper" at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I like that Vanessa just doesn't like sit there and wait to be rescued, you know?
Yeah.
Like once there's something there for her to use, you know, she's like, okay, screw it. I'm not just gonna stay here and wait for Wade to come along, you know? It's pretty awesome. You know, once the fight is over, like I said before, you know, she absolutely wails on him for what he did to her, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And then of course we get that great unmasking scene.
With the photo of Hugh Jackman on his face.
Yeah.
And it's stapled to his face. Like, he didn't tape it, he stapled it to his face.
Yeah. So I love that bit. But of course, you know, like we said before, she's like, hey, you know, I'm cool with it. You know, it will take some getting used to. Duh. Anytime there's a change like that, that's human. But, you know,
She loves him.
She loves him. But then of course we've got the awesome post-credit sequence where he does the Ferris Bueller thing.
And yeah, they recreate the Ferris Bueller post-credit scene.
Yeah.
I'm still mad that Keira Knightley never got to play Cable. She's got range.
She does have range. But yeah, that was the thing, is he's like, there is gonna be a Deadpool 2 and it's gonna have Cable in it.
Apparently, like, that was just going to be a joke. Like, they didn't even know that they were going to get a sequel. But like I said, because the budget for the movie was so low and it did so well in theaters, surpassing its budget, of course they're going to do a sequel. But now they put themselves in a box because now they have to use Cable. Because they said they were going to.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that worked out sometime in the future.
Yeah. At some point, we'll do Deadpool 2. Probably, I would say, if we were going to do it at all, probably around the time Deadpool 3 gets released.
Or maybe we'll do it on International Women's Day.
Whichever one. Whichever comes first.
Whichever one.
But, yeah, Deadpool is such... It's... Like, even if you know nothing about the character, it's still a fun movie. But if you're a real fan of the character, it is so faithful to that character. And the people who made this movie, you can tell that they love this character so much that they wanted to do it right. And budget be damned, they did it.
Yeah.
Like this is, to me, top tier superhero movies. This is how you do it. Ratings be damned, budget be damned. As long as you're telling the right story, it can work. So, Kiki, I think it goes without saying, but does Deadpool have the magic?
Fuck yeah.
Absolutely. I still say it's still one of my favorite. It's the best of the Fox X-Men movies.
I mean, yeah, easily.
By default.
Yeah, by default, it is easily the best of the Fox X-Men movies.
But yeah, just I can't wait for Deadpool 3 later this year. I'm looking. I don't care. Again, haven't seen a trailer, haven't seen anything. I'm still looking forward to it because
we've seen like 2 set pics, and it's, you know, the Ryan Reynolds and
that original announcement trailer.
Well, yeah, which doesn't really tell us anything.
Just that Hugh Jackman was going to be in it.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen Hugh Jackman wearing yellow spandex, and honestly, that's kind of all you need.
Yeah. I can't wait for Deadpool 3. Looking forward to it. Deadpool 1, still a classic movie. It's good. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. If you haven't seen it in a while, see it again. It's on Disney Plus. And that really shocked me. That Disney put Deadpool on Disney Plus, not Hulu, not any other service, but it's straight up Disney Plus. All right, next week, we're doing another musical. We're getting back into the musicals with Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, the 1997 version with Brandy and Whitney Houston. I've wanted to talk about this one for so long, and finally get to talk about this version of this particular musical version of Cinderella.
Yeah.
Is it possible for a plain pumpkin to become a golden carriage? It's possible. So yeah, come back next week for Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, starring Brandy, starring Whitney Houston. And we will talk to you all next time. Bye. Don't let the magic stop here. Join our conversations on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Rewatching the Magic. We are on the X, formerly known as Twitter, at Rewatch the Magic. And new episodes are available every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com. Remember, the magic is for everyone. It only stops if you let it. Podcasts are fun,
but there's work to be done.
We encourage you to get involved. Here are some organizations we support.
The American Civil Liberties Union fights for the constitutional rights of all Americans. Find them at aclu.org.
The National Network of Abortion Funds helps people find access to safe abortion services. Their site is abortionfunds.org.
The Trevor Project provides a 24/7 crisis helpline for LGBTQ youth and education services for schools on LGBTQ issues. They can be found at thetrevorproject.org.
Or find a way to help in your area.